Hi, my name is Kristy Wolfe, and this is my visual resume. Pass me the beef jerky. That's how my husband Harrison surprised me with my first DSLR camera. I remember being so proud of the different textures in this picture of our golden retriever, Indy. It is still the profile picture for my original and now abandoned Facebook account. My son Kane was born 8 weeks early in November 2012. During the 54 days we spent in the NICU, I had my camera with me most of the time. 6 months later, I began sharing our story. In my very first blog post, I wrote, Kane has reminded me of what's important. Photography is important to me. While doing kangaroo care in the NICU, I had read an article titled Voluntography: How Shooting for Free Made Me a Better Photographer. I immediately emailed the photographers and asked if I could help them. I did tell them I had no real experience. Well, it turns out helping actually meant taking over, and I began photographing Ronald McDonald House families once a month. Then it was our turn. Kane needed a heart surgery. I thought I would be ready, but can you ever really be ready for something like that? In December 2013, I wrote, no matter how many times I have photographed heart babies, nothing could have prepared me for seeing my own child in the PCICU after surgery. Photographing and telling our story helped me to heal. I started my first Project 52 with this self-portrait. It was just 2 weeks after Kane's surgery. This is one of the first images I ever shared with another group of photographers. It was shortly after I joined an online group called Clickin' Moms. While I photographed and shared images of our family, I also experimented with different styles of photography. I learned I didn't want to pose people, and I definitely didn't want to take photos of inanimate objects. What I did want was to spend time with a family and watch their story unfold. Later that year, I went to my first photography conference. The keynote speaker, Sue Bryce, reminded us to be open to tell our story, which you have probably noticed is pretty important to me. She said, speak your truth even if your voice shakes. And friends, there are many times when my voice shakes. My voice shook even as I worked up the courage to do my first portfolio review with a local Edmonton photographer. It was not nearly as terrifying as I expected. In her feedback, she focused on my strengths and gave me homework projects to help make my images stronger. Over the next few months, she encouraged my confidence in my own photography. The skills I'd been learning over the last 4 years were helping me to find my voice. But fitting in photography for clients when you have a young family, a full-time teaching career, a medically complex kid, and have chosen to make voluntography a priority was difficult. Mom guilt hit me hard when I was away from my family yet again. And then something like this connects your life inextricably to another's. These next words are from Huxley's moms. When Kristy came into the NICU and photographed our family during the most vulnerable moments of our life, she became part of our story. Her photos captured the rawness of that time, the grief, the pain, the love, the trauma, and the beauty. Now that was getting pretty heavy. So here's one of my all-time favorite images of my younger son, Maverick. This is us. I consider myself to be a documentary-style photographer, and I aim to represent each experience I photograph accurately. And you guys, this is most definitely Maverick. But not everyone gets to meet their babies. After a stillborn birth, this mom reached out to me saying, I really want to make sure we capture my body. Mira co-wrote, the more we are able to accept our pain and imperfect process, the more space we create for others to feel accepted. My hope is that with my camera and my words, I am making space for others. As I continued reflecting on the families I wanted to work with, I began wondering, What if hospital families who shared their story through my lens were gifted the images and organizations had real life stories to work with? I want to get photos into the hands of medical families, but I don't want it to be an additional cost for them. Photography was also important in my grade 1 class. We used photos to document our learning, to build visual literacy, and to develop verbal and written storytelling skills. By the end of last year, our grade 1 class had created a day in the life slideshow as a social story to support the students moving up from kindergarten. I love that one kid is facing the opposite way. Telling visual stories with kids is important to me, but I still struggle with telling Kane's story. And then came Together. Together is a collaborative project Kane and I are doing to tell our story of hospital life. This project showcases my perspective as well as Kane's. It allows us to learn together and heal together. What if more families had this opportunity to document their story? I want other families to see their strength and their resilience. This photo has only been shared with this little boy's family. When I asked if I could share it here, they wrote back, "You were such a huge part of our journey, and as hard as the loss was, the photos were such an organic and beautiful event. We absolutely feel it should be something others think about doing." Brené Brown writes, "Courage starts with showing up and letting ourselves be seen. Connection is why we're here. It is what gives purpose and meaning to our lives." I am so grateful to each of the families that have shared their story with me. It is my pleasure and my honor to document their lives. Sometimes my own kids even share my love of photography. We've been doing monthly photography projects that I write about in a newsletter geared to educators and parents. The goal of Click with Kids is for adults and kids to learn basic photography skills together. If I can't have a classroom this year, then I'll create a classroom. But Kane needed another heart surgery just after we moved to Canmore in September 2019. Life can be tricky, there isn't a doubt. You'll skin your knees trying to figure it out. But life works together, the good and the bad, the silly and awful, and happy and sad. To paint a big picture we can't always see, a picture that needs you most definitely. Remember that next time a day goes all wrong. To somebody else, you will always be strong. That was my favorite quote from Nancy Tillman's picture book, You're Here for a Reason. Documenting life in hospital is so important. Families need to see themselves, their strength, their resilience, their struggle, and their hope. Telling stories for medical families both in and out of hospital is what I am passionate about. If this is of interest to you, please find our Facebook group, You're Here for a Reason. Thank you.